This is a little bit of a different video for me. I don't normally give update videos, it's normally just racing or screwing around. But I figured I'd make this, at this point, kind of give you guys an idea where the car is. So, for those who are new here, or have not watched any of my previous videos, this is a 2018 RS Camaro. So it does have the V6 in it. I custom ordered it. It has pretty much all the amenities that a 1LT can have. It's a lot of fun. It started with 335 horsepower and 290 foot-pounds of torque. From there, I have since supercharged it, and then put a smaller Pully on, and then a set of American Racing headers, catless downpipes. If you're curious what supercharger I used, it is the Edelbrock E4 Supercharger. It is a Eaton blower, 1.7 liters. Right now I'm making about 8 pounds of boost. With the tune, the downpipes, and the smaller Pully, crank I'm sitting about 490, 500 horsepower, and about 383 at the wheels in 4th gear, so about 390, give or take, in a 5th or 6th gear pull. The car's pretty quick. It's a lot peppier than it used to be. It's a lot of fun to drive. The only other thing I've had done to it is a Foster's Supercharger wine mod. So it's just a tube that goes from the air intake down into the cabin directly, so you can properly hear the supercharger. The blower is small enough that it can be hard to hear. Besides that, the last video I uploaded since this one was that race against that Grand Sport Corvette. And I'm a little frustrated both with myself for the camera work, and I actually know the Corvette guy, so I probably should have been a little bit more assertive with the whole, like, hey, let's count this down, because he kind of did take the hit, and that made it look worse than it actually was. You don't see him because he goes out of frame, but he was maybe a car length and a half away from me by the time we stopped. We got a good laugh about it. It's a lot of fun. I expected him to beat me, even though I'm making about 30 more horsepower than he is, and to the crank at least. From there, yeah, I just had shitty camera work, so you don't really see how far ahead he actually is. But he's like, you need that much more horsepower and you've got me, you're pretty close. So we had a lot of fun. We talked about it at like a stoplight afterwards, and him and his wife were laughing about it. So hopefully at some point I'll get a rematch with him. I'm gonna get a little more work done to the car. I need to get a transmission tune, because right now it slips pretty bad from first to second. So that is definitely a big disadvantage for me. This 8-speed does not like the power I'm putting down at this point, so I'm definitely overpowering the transmission. This is kind of hard for me to do. It's hard for me to remember everything I want to talk about. As for total cost, a lot of people ask about the total cost. A lot of people ask about quite a few different things, actually. And total cost, I am into this car a little over $7 grand, maybe $7,500 if you include labor, something like that. And that's fairly conservative. I don't have a specific tally off the top of my head, but around $7,500. That's not including the cost of shipping to Hawaii, because a lot of the stuff has an inordinate cost of shipping. And with that money spent, I know you guys could all say, well, why didn't you get a V8? Well, a couple of things. First and foremost, it's fun to have a sleeper. That was not my intention when I bought it. But a lot of people don't buy the V8 for affordability reasons. So they will purchase the V6 because it's cheaper. Well, with all the add-ons and bullshit that I put on this car to make it nicer, I definitely could have afforded the V8. The difference in cost of payment per month for me would have been nominal enough that it just didn't really matter. Affordability-wise, I could have purchased the V8. That's not a big deal. And in retrospect, I should have bought the V8 for a variety of reasons. Besides the fact that I have a bigger engine with a much bigger platform of support for aftermarket mods, this car is difficult to work on. It's difficult to work on besides anything that isn't a super basic bolt-on. So, for example, I have called every major cam manufacturer in the country, and no one makes cams for this car. It is a dual overhead cam V6, and literally no one has blanks, so no one can even make me a custom cam. So to put that into perspective, I cannot get a cam for this car. So even though I want a higher performance cam, I can't have one. Secondly, I cannot put headers on this car. So this block has integrated headers. So that means whatever the exhaust hole size is, I can't even polish it because it's so complicated. So the headers I have, I'm stuck with efficiency-wise. So I can't do long tube, I can't do shorties, I can't do anything. So that definitely makes things a lot more difficult for me. Exhaust options, there's lots of exhaust options. Borla makes a handful. American Racing Headers makes some. You can just tack on some SS exhaust bits on here if you want to. So you have options in that respect. But that only gets you so far. So I can't do a lot of the basic, significant power adders or breathing options with this car that you can do on the V8. So the LGX is a lot harder to work on than the LT1 or any of the LSXs. It's not a bad block. It can take a lot of abuse. It can take a lot of power. I could comfortably get up to like 425 wheel and not have to worry about throwing any rods or blowing anything up. But after that, things go more nicely. And considering I can't get a cam, I strongly suspect getting forged pistons, rods, and crank is going to be a lot more challenging than just looking it up and buying it. Nobody makes it. Nobody makes it because nobody does it. So because this is such a niche platform, your options will be limited. Now I do have a quick car. For the money spent, I have effectively a sleeper. You would say, oh well, a Camaro's not a sleeper. Well, a V6 Camaro definitely is. One of the few things I forgot to talk about prior. People have asked me about cylinder deactivation and MPG. So that's real easy. You do lose the cylinder deactivation with this Supercharger. I'm pretty sure with any forced induction you do. I could be wrong. But at least with this particular system, you do lose cylinder deactivation. But the Supercharger itself has a bypass valve. So what that essentially means is it's operated by vacuum. And when you get on it, it closes and you start building boost. But normally it's bypassing it, so it's easier on the engine. Typically I can maintain 20 to 21 mpg, but that's only because I like to get on it. You could easily maintain 22 to 23 mpg or more if you babied it. But for the whole life of a gas tank, about 260, 280 miles, I'm normally around 20 to 21. So that's the gas mileage portion of it. Just wanted to add that in there real quick. I'm pretty sure I could beat an SS, and I'm pretty sure I could either be dead even with or beat a 392, just because of the weight difference. I've got about as much horsepower as a 392 Scat Pack, and about a 600-pound weight advantage. Just to see. It's wet out, so I'm going to spin the tires in the wrong way. Definitely performs what I need it to. I definitely need smaller rims and stickier tires. So there's a variety of mods that I need to do that from that point. The only other major thing I could think of would be upgrading the drivetrain. Besides either a different transmission and the transmission tune, taking the rear end out of an SS, an older SS, because I don't have Positrack with this because it's not a manual, and my rear gear is like a 290 something, which has definitely a lot longer gearing for the final drive versus an SS is like 325, something like that, which is a significant difference in rear gear. So I would accelerate faster for both the dig and it would change the length of my gears fairly considerably, but it would give me a big acceleration advantage. So I'd go second, third, fourth a lot faster than I do now. But yeah, that's kind of the state of the cars in right now. The biggest thing I need to do right now, like I said, is a transmission tune. And I'm going to do that hopefully sometime in the near future, and that will make a big difference so you don't hear that wheel spin and slipping like you just did now. That was like 3/4 throttle first to second, and it still slipped. So there's only so much I can do about that. Could have had the V8. I'm happy with what I've got. And to be honest, I really like my Supercharger line. And for the price point, I'm pretty sure a V8 Supercharger kit starts around 8 to 10 grand. I've seen some for like 13, depending on how extreme you're going. So 5 grand for some serious horsepower and some fun Supercharger line. Can't go wrong. The car puts a smile on my face every time I step on it. And you get a little bit of Supercharger chirp when you go like third to first at about 2 grand. Yeah, it's a fun car. I really do enjoy it. I could have had the V8. I could be making 500 or 600 wheel horsepower if I got the LT1 and did similar mods. I'd probably have spent maybe 10 grand instead of 7. And yeah, that's a lot more power. But the car's fun. And if you guys enjoy the content, I will hopefully continue to make it. Hopefully I'll find some more fun races. I got in contact with some friends, and hopefully I can set some fun things up. You guys have a wonderful day. And see you around.